Okay, now as Ben said, there's a ton of Norse goodness to talk through, so we are going to skip that and come back to it in a minute. But there was another bit of Blood Bowl news, and I had forgot that this guy did not exist yet. So Trample the Blood Bowl pitch, Rumbollo sheepskin has landed. We can see the model. There is a model now, and this is the last star player of the rulebook. What do you guys think to Rumbollo?
Oh, he's great. He's really, really, really cool. I like this is just such a good star player model. Like, he has pitch presence. He just looks so full of character. Really awesome job on this. I really like him.
He's bang on the art. Oh,
Yes.
Windows. He's absolutely bang on the art, I think. Trips, what do you reckon?
It's definitely a bit of fun. I mean, it's nice to see them finally complete the set. I think if you needed a Rumbollo, you've probably had to work around it and find another model. But this Rumbollo is good. I just wonder what he's doing with a two-pronged fork.
Yeah, so the model is Rumbollo sheepskin riding around on the sheep, which it looks exactly like the art. So even down to his peculiar two-pronged pork. Two-pronged pork? That's fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah, beer bore on the mind, clearly. But his eating utensil. Should we talk about the Rumbollo not crisis, not conspiracy, but what issue?
What's that?
Well, look at the sculpt, and like the painting job is fantastic, and I love this because so many people put this in the video where we talked about Rumbollo. It was just the brains.
Someone needs a different white.
Yeah. So the way, I mean, I have personally only sculpted wool 4,000 or 5,000 times. No, I have never sculpted wool. I can't even imagine. But this, my initial reaction when I saw the model was like, wow, they've got him exactly like the artwork. But I don't remember the sheep being made of thick udon noodles.
Oh yeah, since you pointed out there were ramen noodles, that's like
Yeah.
I can't unsee that. It's the perfect color. Like that's delicious.
It is. It looks amazing. They look perfectly cooked. Loads of soy sauce on there. Like it looks really good. And then it was Rich Saxby, wasn't it, who pointed out the other thing that it kind of looks like, which
the brain matter. Yeah,
brains. Yeah, it looks like a brain on legs, which is a D&D monster, isn't it? There's like a little weird brain creature.
Oh yeah, there is. Yeah. Oh god, I can't remember the name, but yeah, there is.
It kind of looks like that, but with a nice, polite-looking sheep's head,
Yeah.
with a helmet that I think is questionable. Although, again, some great things in the chat on video, which was maybe he was born and they put the helmet on him as he was born, and the horns grew through the helmet.
Yeah, that's a good point. How does that go?
So I'm looking at the helmet and I'm like, how, like physically, how do you do this? Like this. I think there's a bunch of like corn models from Age of Sigmar and stuff where they've just got questionable helmets. And you're like, how is this guy putting this helmet on? Like,
Yeah.
anyway, it is a very, very, very cool model. But Trips, like you said, there's a lot of third-party alternatives out there. Grebo have done one. Flipping Punga have done theirs, and that will be coming up on print to pitch this Tuesday. The Punga Star Players, and now Forge World have released theirs. Now I think it's a great model. I don't think it's so great that people who've already got an alternative are going to go out and buy it though.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like Trip said earlier, like there's a lot of options out there now because this is the star player that you see quite often. And yeah, I would say I do really like this model. It's full of character, but if it wasn't for that like wool, it's the wool that kind of turns me off a little bit, I have to say.
But if you are going to get into a halfling team, you are going to need star players, and this is a good one. So yeah, pick it up with the box and make the sheep look like a sheep.
Rumbollo is excellent. Like 170k block, tackle, strength 4 on the blitz. Like he's a really solid like safety, or sweeper in the backfield, and that's absolutely huge, and it's a bargain price for 170k for all the other teams. But I think I think we see less of him because it is difficult to find an appropriate third-party miniature. Like there are some good ones out there now from Grebo, but for a while it was all about getting the Warlords of Erewhon halfling goat rider archers and then putting bits of Blood Bowl, which was awesome for a while, but it just didn't feel quite right. And Grebo just Greboed all over the place because they're so good at doing their stars and have a little baguette lance, which was just awesome. And yeah, now we've got the actual model from Forge World, which is cool. And I was not expecting to see this. In fact, like we saw the Norse gear come out this week, and I was very bold on my video on Sunday, and I was like, right, tomorrow we're going to see the last star player spotlight from Games Workshop. We'll find out more about the Yeti with the jazzy everything. And it was Berry in the comments. He was like, Ben, you're completely wrong. I have to disagree with you. You're not going to see the star player this week. You're going to see this instead. Maybe they'll finish the week with the star player. Berry has been bang on. And then they dropped a star player, and I was like, oh, good. Like, we're going to see the Yeti. And it was Rumbollo, which is weird, like super weird. Do you think they forgot about it and were like, oh,
we haven't done that yet?
Yeah, like, oh, Carl from the warehouse has just like forgotten it. It's like, God damn it, Carl, just get it released already.
It does feel like some of the old starter players, it was like Forge Worlds were desperately trying to catch up, and now they're trying to do it miniature in time with the team release going forward. But yeah, Rumbollo and the Tree, heaven forbid, if you put both of them on the pitch at the same time, people will wonder which decade you're in, let alone which year.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a weird one. I do have a theory about that. I think some of the original star players, I wonder if they lost the molds, or I don't. I'm sure you guys have seen this in your various jobs. Is somebody's halfway through a model or halfway through a piece of work, and then they leave. And then it's like, we've already allocated the time to that person to build that, and everybody else has moved on to, next year's releases. Now we have to get someone to go back and either finish it off or do it from scratch. I do wonder if that, like, literally just talking about it from like a corporate logistics point of view, or they're just
maybe
ad hoc mad lads, which I'm also fine with, because
I don't know their schedule. They seem to just sort of pump things out whenever. Like it's really hard to find any kind of pattern, isn't it?
I want a roadmap. Give us a roadmap for Blood Bowl. That's all I want.
Never going to get one with
and Squigs. Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, Rumbollo is going to be here at some point, but there is some cool stuff going on in the third-party realm as well. So Vortice Miniatures, who are probably most famous for the massive stadium Kickstarter and that very cool but slightly cartoony Khemri team from a couple of years ago. And they've got their new Kickstarter out and about now, which is the Drakenblood Knighters, which is a multiple different vampire style vampire team. This has got 10 days to go, so this is going to be wrapping up on Monday, 25th of April. It's more than double its goal now, and it's doing a cracking job. So price-wise, well, look at the price first. £55 for the basic team, which is 6 thralls and 6 vampires. And there is an advanced team for £79 with 12 vampires and 8 thralls. Now, the reason you can have so many vampires is because they have done different bloodlines. So there's a lot of cool different models, but there's the Strigoi bloodline, which are all kind of like half vampire bat dudes, which is very much in keeping with the Warhammer Fantasy Battle. I did have a little chat with the Vortice guy, and he was like, I loved like vampire counts in Warhammer, and I wanted to bring back that aesthetic. Nailed it with the Strigoi. There are the von Carsteins, which are the classic kind of like Dracula kind of vampire.
Yeah, like the sort of regal ones,
Yeah. And the Necrarcha, which were the what were they in Warhammer?
Necrarch.
Yeah. Which were the kind of wizardy ones. Now they've done a really cool thing. They've made them wizardy, but they've made them kind of do you guys ever seen Blade Trinity?
Yeah.
Yes.
They've got that vibe. They've got a split jaw bit. They've got hoods. They look a bit shifty, which I think is really, really cool. And then what I think is just the best vampire design out there. I love von Carsteins, but the blood dragons are just chunky, knights that we saw in the in the preview stuff. I think we talked about the preview on the podcast, but these are fully laden vampires, full armor, big bat wings on the helmets. They look like blood knights from Warhammer, not Age of Sigmar, but also Age of Sigmar. And then there's also the Larmian bloodline, which is like the female Cleopatra kind of vibe, although they've kind of dropped the Cleopatra vibe and have just gone with basically female Spider-Man looking vampires.
Yeah, very spidery.
Yeah.
Lots of web motifs on them. Yeah.
Which is cool. And they've got a bunch of sort of perks. I don't know how much they've got in the way of stretch goals, but being the double
they have got quite a lot. All of them stretch goals. They've got, about, what, 20?
Okay, with a vampire trophy, Acorn the squirrel, which does look amazing. Reroll token, Hellwolf chainsaw, which is pretty cool. The Necroturgist is interesting. Skull half geist. Looks like a dwarf ape. Interesting design. They've got Gretchen. Why have they got Gretchen before Bruce? No one's ever going to take Gretchen. Anyway, the models look really lovely, really well sculpted, and will come in high quality resin. What do you guys think to the Kickstarter?
I like Trips, you first.
So I think the models are amazing. I think if you want a vampire team, this is an amazing vampire team, and there is so much in it, particularly if you sort of back the whole lot. It's not the cheapest of Kickstarters, but there is a hell of a lot of quality in it.
You flagged out there is another purchasing mode, which is Legend for £154 with 30 vampires and 10 thralls. So every vampire you can get. I've backed this. I think I backed it on the advanced one because I think you're going to need at least 8 thralls. That's definitely something to watch out for if you run in vampires. There's a lot of builds where you end up with 8-9 thralls. To kind of max out on your rerolls. I think that's the wrong way to go now. I think vampires are better than they used to be. They're different, but less self-destructive than they used to be. So you can run more vampires without suffering too much of the issues. In the olden days, the vampires, if they failed bloodlust and there was no one to bite, they'd run off into the crowd. So you needed to have those thralls. These days, they just do nothing. So, if they're in base contact with a thrall, they'll give him a punch, which is fine. If they're not in base contact with a thrall, then they just do nothing, and they're not going to run off. So you can afford to have more vampires on your roster. My vulnerability with this one, guys, is we've just seen what they've done to the Norse team with changing up, taking away 2 positionals and adding 2 more in. Is this a good time to get into Team of Legend, Ben?
Well, I think these are, I'd say in general, it's a little bit risky. But I think these are kind of suitably varied in their design that you could probably get away with a lot of different positions. Like if they were to add anything into vampires, unless it was really out there, like bats, I think you could probably do with some of these. Like some of the thralls look like throwers. The vampires themselves look pretty different to each other.
You suggesting that they're going to get a little position called blood bats?
And, just a swarm of bats. Yeah, you had a beer pig. If someone suggested that to you 2 years ago, you would have laughed at that.
Maybe it needs to have a barrel. What do you reckon, Trips, to the teams?
That's not a bad call there by Ben. I think any team of Legend, you're going to take a risk that you'll end up with a slightly difficult to put on the pitch team because you get it tweaked to detail. But I think if you want this team, you're probably going to want to get it out and play with it, and you've probably got a fair old few months before they get around to vampires. So I think you're safe to get them on the pitch and make them look cool.
Well, I hope now that we get vampires previewed in the next month or so, just so we can use that audio clip. You're going to be safe. Anyway, they've got 10 days left on that. They've smashed their goals, and they do a very good Kickstarter, as do Wire Games or Wire Games. I cannot get the name right. What used to be WA Games is now WAIA Games, and they've got their Amazon team. Now, we've got this Amazon team. We've seen this Amazon team, and I'm going to tell you that the casting quality is phenomenal. This Morg cast that they use is just legitimately some of the best resin casting I have ever seen. Like they do a superb job. It's a full-on Amazon team, and I think £54 gets you 8 linewomen, 2 throwers, 2 catchers, and 4 blitzers. So you can run this as human team. They've even got a human team version of it as well, with 8 linewomen, 2 throwers, 2 catchers, 4 blitzers, and an ogress. Amusingly, they've adjusted their Kickstarter to have a Norse version, 8 linewomen, 2 Valkyries, 2 wild boars, 2 berserkers, 2 Ulfwereners, and a Yeti for £63. So they've upgraded what they're doing during kind of the Kickstarter launch to make sure that they can provide the beer pigs, which they've already sculpted and have previewed.
They look great. Yeah,
they look perfect.
Yeah.
Like, if they sell those individually, job done. I mean, is it Grebo who we've seen make some as well?
Yes, I think they did come out with them. Yeah, we've seen a few. I think even a few individuals have just modelled some.
I think Caliber did some did the boars. I sent them across to Trips because you were on the lookout. I think
on the lookout for them.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a great looking project. Acorn is awesome. Squirrel Corn. I like that you've got all the different teams. They've crushed their goal. They're at 13,000. They've got 14 days left to go. So they are Friday, April the 29th. So if you're in the market for a very tribal looking, for Amazon's pretty reasonable looking team.
Yeah.
Some of it is a little bit of a stretch. Most of it is not too bad at all, which is well within the realms of acceptability when it comes to fantasy miniatures. I just look at the Corn team.
Very true.
I'm like looking at the Corn team and I'm thinking, I don't even know how to look like that. Gold jewelry, first move, I guess. I don't think it really suits me.
Ready the Dark Gods, Ben. It'll happen.
Yeah. Well, I've had a bit of one of those angry Corn weeks. But in the world of Blood Bowl news, I'm pretty sure that's everything. Just let me double check the roster before I do the thank you to the Patreons. I think that is all the core Blood Bowl news, with the exception of just an absolute barrage of Norse. But before we move on, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who supports us by watching the channel, subscribing, liking, all those cliche things, but also those people who support us on Patreon. We've had a bunch of new recruits this last month. It's been fantastic. Mario, Maxwell Patel, Michael Thompson, Rasmus Bay, Matt Austin, Deontay Sane, Patrick Glaspie, Shane Curl, Franz Lauer, Lars, Ajax the Riot, Monty Lundy, Mark Anderson, Thoughtless Casual Gaming Podcast, Luis Azia, Matzo De Carlos, Gary Bethel, Rick Brick, G, Carl Messenger, Calla, Paul Blunt, Ivo, Lloyd Newton, Richard Wall, and Viking Phil. Viking Phil, I feel like this is going to be a very good month for you. Fantastic. But yeah, massive thank you. Now, let's talk hobby. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to help support the channel even further, please like and subscribe, or come join us on our Patreon. We have early access to content. We get loads of feedback from you guys, and we try and do competitions as much as we can. Or you can get yourself some Bonehead Podcast merch on our Spreadshirt site. So if you want to support a team, especially for the Bonehead Championship, you can pick up a shirt, a mug, things like that. It all helps support the channel, and we really appreciate it. Anyway, links below. Thank you very much. Happy blocking.